Hello. First, I want to say thank you so much for inviting me here today. I'm totally excited to be here. Look at the size of the audience. This may be my biggest ever. I always like to begin with a story of a time when I lived in Naples, Florida. Maybe it's unknown to you. It's on the southwest coast of Florida. Briefly, after college, I decided to move there because I was intending on leaving Washington, D.C. to try out something new, and it was a very small beachfront town. And during that time, I was the only deaf resident of all of my friends and people I socialized with were hearing. The nearest deaf person to me was a few hours away by car, and most people in the town have never known of a deaf person. It was solely me and my hearing friends. Fortunately for me, Naples, Florida has some extraordinary volleyball players and Olympians that live and practice there during the year. I would play with my friends most of the time, either inside or outside, and I thought to myself, hey, they were really lucky because I'm fairly good at volleyball. We played a lot during the year, inside or on the beach. However, I wanted to take a year off. One evening, after playing all day, one of my buddies pulled up some chairs at the beach. I was 24 at the time, and he asked me a question within 24 years of my life I had never heard before. That truly blew my mind. His question was, have you ever wished to be hearing? I thought to myself, why would he ask me that? Suddenly I realized while we were sitting there on the beach, I could see the crashing of waves on the shore, but he could hear them. I couldn't. To our left, people had been taking over the volleyball courts and were playing and cheering each other on. To our right, it was a family with a baby and a mother was playing and cooling behind us. Cars, ATVs had passed by practically all day, and I had not heard anything because my world is extremely silent. Yes, of course, I was fast to respond and say no, most definitely not. I've never once wished that I could hear because I love being deaf and I embrace my deaf identity for plenty of reasons, but mostly my cultural experience different differ that many hearing people in this room. I use another language, making me bilingual now. Growing up, my experiences and perspective of the world and in my life differ different is different than most of you. And yes, I cherish who I am and would never want to change. For instance, suppose I were to go to a job interview with a hearing panel of my peers, and I was the only deaf person in the room, and in the back of my head, if I desired that I could hear, and if I was wishing that I could speak to them the same way that they'll speak to me at that same level, do you think I would get the job? No way, right? In the back of my mind, I'm focusing on that negative mindset, which bring about a negative outcome. But instead, I chose to look at my identity and my difference as an advantage and not as a loss. I can go into that room and share with a multitude of reasons why that company should hire me and how they can benefit from having a deaf man in the room at the table with them. And I know I'll get that job, right? And I also think that when I think back to the beach, I also think of other reasons why I've learned to love myself. Now, many of you may not realize that my entire family is deaf. My two brothers, my parents, my grandparents, and also my great-grandparents. I'm the fourth generation in a beautiful deaf family with with over 25 members. And much like hearing people, if you were to imagine growing up with hearing parents, you simply don't see barriers that weren't there. You had a normal communication access to language in your home. It was the same in my house. My entire family is deaf. It was sort of like a utopia for me in many ways. For me growing up, my parents already knew to give me sign language and put me in a deaf school, so I had a really normal childhood, and I was very gracious to be given my deaf identity from birth. Many of you may think because my entire family is deaf, my house is mostly really quiet. No, let me tell you, we don't know how much noise we actually make.